What's up, everybody? Back at it again. It's Opex. Today I got a different type of video for you. Sick of doing videos in the truck, so we're going to do a video in the apartment. I apologize with the lack of light. You don't need light. You don't need light. You don't need to see me. You don't need to see me. But I don't like natural light. If you do want light, there's light right there. But I'm not going to give it to you because I don't like unnatural light. I like natural light. Got a thing open back there, a window open, so we got some light going. Anyways, we got a video for you today, and this is a long one coming because we needed to do this one like 2 months ago, or whenever I made my last video. But we're doing that today. So, cue the intro. That's right, we don't do intros because that's just a waste of time. Anyways, so this video is brought to you by Patrick Gaskell. Do a video on your thoughts on evolution. So let's dive into it, shall we? Again, cue the intro. That's right. He doesn't do intros because it's a waste of time. So let's just dive into it, shall we? Cue the intro. You did it again, buddy. You did it again. Anyways, let's dive into it, shall we? Today's video, we're going to talk about evolution. Because you asked for my thoughts on evolution, now we're not going to be too detailed. We're going to be pretty vague because you haven't labeled anything particular that you wanted me to discuss about evolution. Maybe the origins, maybe evolution in mankind. I don't know exactly what you want. So we're just going to give my vague thoughts on everything. So let's dive into it. So evolution. Where do we want to begin? This is obviously not something I've thought about before turning on this video. We're 2 minutes into this, and you can see I'm already kind of not knowing where I'm going to start. So I made a video back in the day about evolution, creationism, basically where the origin of consciousness began. And I think that's a great way to start this video because we need to know the potential of how it started if we want to know what happened in the duration of evolving. Now I've talked about creationism versus evolution in terms of consciousness, and let's just dive into, can consciousness, because I think what we're evolving is consciousness, right? It's matter that is alive, cellular level, proteins, amino acids. We are thinking about how life began. And if you don't have consciousness or some level of awareness, then you're not going to be able to eat, if you're a single-celled organism, you're going to have to devour something in order to get energy. That requires consciousness. However, rocks, everything else that is not alive is not conscious. So I think it's very important to understand that where consciousness stems from. Consciousness cannot stem from a rock, right? Like I've made that video before about where consciousness comes from. It doesn't come from a rock. So if you have the earth without life, how do you get life onto that earth? Does it come from a separate area? Does it have a little soup, primordial, or some type of liquid concoction that turns life into life, or turns nothing into life? I didn't believe it in the past, but I believe it now. Because we have seen things in the last couple years that has changed my mind on consciousness coming from a rock. And I made the idea, the connection of if there was, how to get life on Earth would be very, very difficult, especially life how we know it today. Mammals, let's say, breathing in oxygen, breathing out carbon dioxide for the plants. And when plants are consuming the carbon dioxide, they of course release oxygen. So there's a balance. And because there's a balance, you can't have one without the other. So can life begin with no recyclable air that is needed to breathe? See, if you are to think about life being on this planet without plants, right? How is that possible? it isn't how life we know it of it now. It is impossible to have humans here without trees, right? Without some sort of way to produce more oxygen. Because once we use up that oxygen levels will fade, and we will evolve to a point of needing less oxygen, which is not good because, of course, we're going to eventually die if you don't have recyclable oxygen. So how do you start the Earth? This is very intelligent in terms of where we need to be. We need to understand this. Because if we can't wrap our head around this, we're not going to be able to talk about how humans became the way that they are, right? Which is evolution, which is my thoughts primarily. So we need to understand and have a knowledge of understanding what produces what we are today. So let's say creationism wasn't a thing and we evolved from a rock. So we have this idea of comets and asteroids or other planets, celestial bodies, moons, different bodies of elements crashing into each other and producing what we know of the Earth today. Now that can produce a lot of different things like water. You know, of course we know that a molecule of oxygen and a molecule of hydrogen doesn't necessarily combine, but if you have one hydrogen and two oxygen, they will combine into this liquid form, generally liquid if it's under a certain temperature, over a certain temperature. In that Goldilocks zone, we will have a liquid substance. Now that liquid substance is essential for all life, but it also can hurt all life. So we need to understand what is water and the importance of water. Now I know this is going to be a long video because we haven't even talked about evolution yet, but we need to understand where it comes from. Water can hurt you. Oxygen can hurt you. We need antioxidants, but we also need oxygen. So we need a Goldilocks zone. In order to understand this Goldilocks zone, we need to also understand too much water. Let's say if you have plants, like the plants behind me on that TV. Those plants require water, but you have too much water, of course you're going to damage that root structure. It's going to be root bound. It's going to be, root rot. And many different problems that will affect its growth. And of course it's going to affect its genetics, which is going to affect its evolution. And those traits needed to pass on to become stronger and better than previous in order to survive and thrive. So humans, if we have water, we add water and that adds oxygen to us. Our blood flows all that oxygen throughout the body and in the liquid in order for a good level of oxygen into our body where our cells can breathe and can reproduce and be healthy. But we have a regulation in our body of antioxidants. Because if you have too much oxygen, your shit's going to rust out. Just look at what it does to metal. Too much, in fact, oxygen in itself rusts us out. It harms us. So if we understand that there's a Goldilocks zone of how life can even exist with the oxygen levels, water levels, etc. Everything has to be in balance or else it cannot be. It can't be. We can't be here right now if there was different levels of oxygen and stuff. Imagine if water had two hydrogen molecules versus two oxygen molecules. It's going to change how we take that stuff in, how we digest it, how we throw it through our body with our cardiovascular system. So understand everything is in a Goldilocks zone, from heat to water to humidity to whatever, right? Everything has to be in balance. Too much of something will murder us. Our bodies can't handle it. So let's say we're living on the Earth, all right? And how did life start on Earth? So we're going back to the creationism idea. Let's go back to creationism. How do you create something here that wasn't here? Because clearly the Earth didn't just start and there's life here. The Earth had to be here first. Levels of oxygen had to be here. Levels of hydrogen. Levels of all these carbon dioxides. All these different compounds have to be here in order for life to even start, not even thrive, to start. So let's say in creationism, we believe that maybe there's an alien or a God figure that created life, created consciousness. And that's a very difficult subject, and we're not going to dive into, is creationism possible, let alone whatever. But we're just going to dive into creationism because if we understand that there is a way to create life, then we got to understand that there's a way to create life. Now, that alien species, the God species, or whatever that is that created life, where did that life come from? Did that come from another planet? We just took the genetics and the seeds and the sperm or whatever of that substance, created into the earth. That's possible. But and it's likely, like that makes sense. If creationism was to be, if a God figure or an alien came here, let's say this alien was gray aliens, right? And the species that they wanted was humans. And on a planet in this dimension or this area of the universe had gorillas, right? And they changed, or they manipulated their genetics and they cross-strained their genetics with a gorilla. You know, what if their gray alien, little 4 foot tall, big brained, intelligent creatures, very high consciousness, crossed with a gorilla? Would that create us? It's very possible, and it makes a lot of sense. However, we don't have any evidence of this. All we can do is hypothesize. We can take the evidence that we do have and make any claim we want with that evidence. However, we have no evidence for creationism or any type of start boundary. But if there is a creationism aspect, evolution plays much less of a role in the start as we may believe. Because evolution is very funny. It's one of these things that if you believe it was at the start, then evolution is the primary factor. Genetics is the primary factor of reproduction, of survival, of everything. But if we take this idea of creationism and we say that all life began from a creation standpoint, then we need to understand that evolution isn't as powerful as we thought, A. 2, evolution is based on already thriving creatures. Because if you just created something, how is that thing going to thrive without evolution? Well, there's got to be evolutionary traits in the past, which means if it's creationism, you did not create something new. You have literally took two things that were already in existence and created it. Now, that's like the alien God idea, but there's also the other idea of God of, you know, let's say the Christian version. God breathed life into man. So God already figured out this is what we want. And they're going to create a strain, whether that's through a supercomputer, whatever it being. God created people, created single-celled organism, created this huge chain reaction where everything in the food chain makes sense. Everything's out to eat everything else, basically, and survive and thrive. Reproduction, you're going to have more eggs if you're a frog because you want a better chance of survival. That's an evolutionary trait, right? Now, if that was created just as is, if you just created a frog that created like a mammal, like one frog, that genetic is going to die. So creation is almost unacceptable in my view because I don't believe, it's hard for me to believe that someone created something out of nothing. Right? Like that rock creating consciousness. It's not possible. There's no evidence towards that. Where there's evidence starts coming outside of that creationary idea, and that we started from a like some celestial body, and we had atoms and protons and electrons and neutrons and different types of elements combining together, generally through more of a carbon-based life form. And we can create life forms basically from different types of elements, different proteins and amino acids. And we can create life using this method, obviously still through the Goldilocks zone. Goldilocks of oxygen, water, molecules, everything's got to be Goldilocks zone. And physics has to be perfect the way it is now. Because if physics wasn't the way it is now, an atom itself would combust. An atom itself couldn't contain itself through its own forces of gravity and magnetism, basically, of different types of pulls, keeping the electrons moving on an atom, right? So we got to think about this, right? If we had tons of different elements, different types of rocks and sedimentary, different types of rocks, these things all combine. And because they combine through the atomic forces, right, we can create compounds of creatures as well as the non-conscious. So a little while ago, this year, I found out that they created life from nothing. So it was this year when I found out it is possible to create life that didn't exist before. So, and I've said this a few times on my channel this year, they've created this new thing that they have patented, where they created new creatures using this thing that didn't exist before. There is no genetic material that's precise genetic. You create that genetic. So what they did was they created this basically the cell that would reproduce over and over, almost like a jelly-like skin, and have a cellular reproduction, cellular mitosis and cellular division in order to create life that was sustainable. Life that required oxygen. So they took these amino acids, these things, and they created life. And now what they do with that life is they can program that into a computer. They've been able to take life from nothing, create life, breathe life into this thing, and program this thing. Humans are doing this in 2020. So they take this substance and able to create it to move the way that they want. And it's basically microscopic, because what they're designed for this technology is to put it into your body, to put oxygen or different repair mechanisms in place, so they'll inject into your body and have it repair something for you and have it walk into your bloodstream, basically, and do whatever it wants to do, whatever task it needs. Let's say if it's taking out cancer, all right? So it'll find the cancer, it's programmed, and it walks in those directions with not like feet, but like a jelly substance where it's like the jelly's moving, like an amoeba. They're creating these things to move and do those things in your body from an alive source that they have created. So, of course, you can look up online, quick Google search, and know what I'm talking about. They're creating these things, and then they're going to go throughout the body and repair different things, or add oxygen to certain areas, or add antioxidants to certain areas to repair and to help you in whatever aspect. All right. Maybe you have blood clots. They can use this thing this technology to stop blood clots. Maybe it'll eat those blood clots and unclot for minor repairs, basically. Anyways, the point is I'm getting at is that we have the technology now to create life out of nothing. When I made that creationism video with evolution and the origins of consciousness, or whatever I labeled that video, I didn't know about this technology because this technology didn't exist, and there was no way for me to obtain this idea without it being already here. Right? So I always had this idea, you can't have consciousness come from nothing, but yes, you can. Things have to line up perfectly in a Goldilocks zone with physics, humidity, light, UV, all different types of spectrums, other than just light spectrums. This is humidity spectrums. So we need to be in a Goldilocks zone for specific life. Now where I'm going to dive into this, where do I feel about that? I don't think creationism is from a God thing coming from nothing to something. Now, do I believe it's possible that God can create genetics and just be like, well, I like this genetic, we'll do this, like almost like you're programming a computer with ones and zeros, like a binary code, and then code your genetics. Do I believe that's possible? Yes, because we can, as humans, manipulate DNA, cross strains. And this is more than just plants. We can do it with animals. We can do it with mammals. We can do this. So evolution from, or creationism into evolution from a standpoint of somebody created you and me and everything around us is possible from nothing. But I'm more apt to believe that life formed elsewhere, somewhere. And that life was, how do I put this? Because this is going to get deep. My idea of the purpose of life, your purpose is to reproduce. That's the purpose. But why does it want to reproduce? So it can understand and be conscious of its surroundings. That's the whole reason we are alive, is to reproduce and understand what's going on. It's crazy, right? That we can just go to high school, graduate high school, and then just forget our thoughts. Because life is all about understanding more and more and understanding a deeper purpose and understanding of this. And that's us as humans. We always strive to understand more. The Albert Einstein thing is once you stop learning, you start dying. You start degrading. You stop having that purpose. Because that is the second purpose of life, is to just understand what's going on. Right? And to be better and thrive better. Become better. And you can't get better unless you choose your reproduction mate as humans. So we would reproduce with better quality genes. Right? So if I'm able to talk to you at a very intelligent level, that's better for a woman to understand that than, or would rather go for me to understand that I have a better purpose, I have a better knowledge, I'm more safe, less risky, I'm healthy, obviously. So there's a million things going for me why women would choose me other than that guy on that couch. It's evolutionary traits to say, I want that alpha male. I don't want no beta male that stopped learning, stopped caring, stopped having compassion. Because these are evolutionary traits that helped us in our human race, let alone other species. Like, let's just say elephants. Elephants know that when their member of the pack died, whether it was their baby or not, or whatever, let's say a baby died of an elephant baby. I don't know what those are called. But an elephant baby, calf. It would be a calf. If their calf dies, they mourn that death. There's a reason why they mourn that death, is because it helps them become more of a tribal animal. You are part of that tribe, and you have strength in those numbers. And if you love those others, you're going to fight for those others. So let's say a big bull elephant, it's a male elephant. If that elephant didn't have compassion, everything around it would die, because there's lions out there. There's other animals that want that experience, that XP, that the nutrients from you and your tribe. So an elephant getting to the point of compassion is very crucial for its survival. You evolve that. That's not something you get from. That's not something that was. That started your lineage, right? You needed to evolve that. The females and the males had to pick each other, right? You want the alpha male, not the beta male, as a female. Because if that alpha male has compassion, it's going to protect you. If that alpha male is going to protect you, you're going to be safe and you're going to live, and you're not going to be worried as much about anything else, and you're going to survive and thrive. But if your alpha males are betas, right, and they can't even ward off elephants, can't do a big noise like a to scare off anything, that's a beta male, right? It's a beta male elephant, and you should not inherit those genes because it's going to be more detrimental for your lineage, for your reproduction. And if the reproduction is the purpose of life, watch my video, The Purpose of Life, because I will detail why reproduction is the purpose of life. But I'm not going to dive into that in this video because we're 25 minutes left into this, and we barely even touched on evolution yet. So let's dive into it. So you're going to be picking the better genetics to reproduce with in order to obtain higher standards of living, better apt to thrive. So if you look at the human race, right? If you have a psychopath that's out to murder people or risky with your money or whatever it may be, if you're more of a risk for a female because you're more of a beta male, you don't have compassion, you don't have these levels of things that you would need to survive and thrive, women don't like to stay with men that are betas, right? Come on, let's be honest. If I'm sitting on the couch and I'm fat, am I going to be playing ball with my kid and making my kid a better person? Am I out there getting more money to make sure that we are more sustainable in economic circumstances? You are looking as a woman for traits of a man to be better. Because if you don't, you're going to be looking for traits that are going to hurt you, and that's going to affect your family duality. This would be the male-female complex over their child, their offspring. If you mess up with that duality, you're going to be a weaker genetic. We already know that in the human race, if you have, if a child, a young girl, is being brought up without a father because that father was a beta male, the woman didn't want him around for whatever reason, or he didn't want to be around for whatever reason. Doesn't matter if it's a good reason or a bad reason. Doesn't matter. The father's not around. That young girl is more apt to have higher levels of estrogen, higher levels of sexual desires at a young age. Now, this is a natural thing because you want to reproduce. What's the purpose of life? So that young girl who's just turning 12 already creating eggs, and she's already having a desire for sex or a desire for men, that's because she didn't have an alpha in her life. So naturally, distinctively, she would be searching for an alpha male at a young age. And she would be turning more into a woman at a younger age than that of which a girl with a father and a mother would have. Boys being brought up without a father would have detrimental effects to the boy. Boy's going to try to be the alpha of the house without the knowledge or the understanding. They're more apt to be in jail or prison at a much younger age too, like in teenage ages, because you're not with that father. You're not with the role model. You're not with the alpha male, which is hurting your genetics, which is not creating you as the alpha, right? That's creating you as somebody who has to collect for the family, someone who has to step up to the plate, right? So if you in nature, let's say a pack of deer in nature, right? There's wolves around, there's bears. If you're a wolf, you as a female wolf, you need an alpha wolf there. You need alphas. Because if you don't have the alphas there, let's say the alpha's not around, your pack is not nearly as strong. So what happens to your genetics? Of course, the female wolves are going to have to play the part of, alpha male, but they're not, right? It's the same thing in nature that we deal with as humans when we grow up without a father. You're much weaker genetically, but you are pushed into a direction of reproduction. So how does that happen? Well, women like bad boys, right? Something about that being tough or good or strong. If you had a pack of deer in the wild and you don't have that buck around to buck off these wolves, well, the female and her offspring are just going to be free game for the local wildlife. So look at it like that. Like, once you have the alpha male gone, your lineage is gone. You're never going to be strong. You're going to be weaker, evolutionarily speaking, than that of which had the stronger alpha male with compassion and the means to go the extra mile to tackle that whatever. As a wolf or a deer, it doesn't matter if you're the prey or the predator, you need an alpha male. If you're an elephant group, you need that bull elephant. Because if that bull elephant wasn't there and it didn't have compassion, your whole lineage is gone. So that's the importance of evolution. Evolution exists. So I came to this conclusion years ago. How do I put this where I don't sound crazy? Thoughts, ideas, travel, memories, travel from seed to seed. This would be me, right? I have semen inside my balls. There's information, genetic information, mental, physical, all types of information that's being passed down into my seed. If I'm the alpha male and I was in a strong quality situation and not a comfort zone, there's levels of stresses that you need, and we'll make a video on that at some point. I've been thinking about that as my next video, but I have another video. I have tons of videos coming, so expect it. If you have, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry, guys. So, evolution exists. There's tons of evidence for evolution and why it's important. You know, a woman's not going to go after beta males because it's not in their best interest. And they know that subconsciously because it's the purpose of life, to reproduce with the best genetics you can. When men look at women and the woman looks beautiful, it's because that beautiful woman increases endorphins in us. There's something in us that says this is really good genetics. This woman's not fat. She's not going to be lazy. She has great genetics, which is going to create a better lineage because other people are going to really enjoy those genetics. Maybe go out of their way to enhance your family's genetics. Like if as a man, if you're looking for a woman, you're looking for a beautiful woman because you're going to get more perks out of it. If you have a beautiful woman, you're going to have more of a beautiful offspring, which is going to be more desired. Beauty means that you're healthy. If you're healthy, you're going to be more desired because you have better genetics. And when we evolve, women want taller men, not shorter men, right? Those genetics we want stronger, better genetics. If we're growing marijuana, we want the better genetics, not those little tiny strains. We want one that bushes out higher THC levels, right? So the point is that I'm getting at is that we're always striving to be evolutionarily better. Here's the point of the video that changes everything. I know I'm skipping around. I'm not being very concrete with things, but this is thoughts, my vague thoughts on evolution. So let's dive into the other side. This is what's going on, especially with our human race now. This is what's happened with house cats to your normal house dog. This would be devolution, de-evolution. This is a very critical topic. You can Google devolution. There's tons of evidence towards this. But let's dive into this. If humans are being constantly brainwashed with television, constantly in a weaker state of consciousness, we're constantly we're constantly in 5G. We're constantly in lower levels of vitamin D, especially in here. I'm inside right now. Lower levels of vitamin D. This is called devolution because we're not enhancing our evolutionary traits. Devolution. This is fat people dating fat people and having fat ass offsprings. Lower intelligence. Lower levels of compassion. Lower levels of greatness. Today, at a higher level than ever before, devolution is taking place. There's a direct attack on our genetics. This would be through vaccinations. This would be through entertainment. I said this in the past. Once upon a time, we didn't have entertainment. Like, we would just get out of work and just be entertained. We would talk amongst each other and enhance our quality of life with each other. We would joke and have fun. We would be better personality-wise because of the need to do so. We didn't have entertainment, right? So we created it, and we became better because of it. We would have better sports, so we would work harder in our sports. See, we all need levels of stressors in our life to become our greatest version. If you don't have a stressor, you're going to be stuck in a comfort zone. And because of that comfort zone, you're not going to become as great as you would normally be, or higher IQ, or higher levels of motivation, dedication, or etc. You need levels of stressors in your life to become a better person, evolutionarily speaking, or whatever, right? Like, if I'm working out right now, if I have this 25-pound bell, yeah, right? And we keep doing that over and over. It's adding stress. Now, that metabolic or anabolic stress will result in better fibers, better tissue, and much stronger. But if we're doing this stress every day, of course, it's going to be having a better effect in the long run. Yeah, that stress now is going to affect you where you're going to be a better person. You're going to be obviously better detoxed, better mentally fit, physically fit, etc. All of that is because of stress. Today, we have this thing where we don't stress much. We're living in the safest, best times on the planet. Now, I know I've gotten a lot of hate from that video, that we're living in the safest time in history. We are, guys. We're devolving to the point we're just all in a comfort zone. We're becoming house cats. Our level of intelligence has decreased. Once upon a time, intelligent people would strive to become more intelligent, to become better. Now it's not really the case. Now it's like everything's brought to us on purpose. Everything's a quick Google search so you can reduce your brain function capabilities. And your abilities in general are always being siphoned. The people around you are either on drugs or alcohol or whatever, and then they're becoming energy vampires. Everything is devolving our economic, our social, our physical, mental capabilities. We're devolving at such a rate that we're not as strong as we used to be. We're not as healthy as we used to be. If you look at a movie from 1950, you cannot find a fat person there. Shit, just look at the movie Jaws, where they're all on the beach with their shirt off, right? They're all skinny. Not skinny as in unhealthy skinny, but skinny as in a healthy, feeling good skinny. Nowadays, it's almost non-existent unless you're working out like crazy and dieting like crazy and doing all. Once upon a time, we ate real foods, whole foods. Now we're eating out of boxes. We're devolving at such a rate that it is impossible to get back to where we were 100 years ago. We're on drugs. We didn't have acetaminophen 200 years ago. We didn't have vaccinations 200 years ago. We're changing our genetics and devolving our genetics and having all these new allergies over and over and worse and worse and worse. And we're becoming worse and worse with Tourette's, with fucking ADD, ADHD. We're OCD. We're so weak now that anything that challenges your comfort, you strive to go around and to avoid. That is the wrong thing to do. If you want to be evolutionarily better, there's a lot of things you need to take into account and lifestyle changes. You need to strive to become an alpha. This requires compassion. It requires motivation, dedication, and it requires stressors. You're going to have to add stressors to your life to become a better person. If you're living in a comfort zone, you're never getting better. You're getting worse. If you're sitting on a couch, you're getting worse. If you're not practicing speechcraft, if you're not practicing exercising and working out and running a mile here and there, if you're not doing these things, then you're not actually being fulfilled. So then you're going to take entertainment to try to fill that void. Now, of course, we already have that video. Get out of that entertainment cycle, etc. But of course, that is affecting our genetics. Our genetics are being affected every single day. Less sunlight is affecting your genetics. Everything's affecting your genetics. So, I've said this before. There was this guy that I trained in Jamaica. Not in Jamaica. He's from Jamaica. He's from Jamaica. And I trained him at Home Depot about in 2014 or 2015. Yeah, 2014 into 2015. So I'm training this dude straight off the boat from Jamaica. And it was December or January. Probably January 2015. And this dude was black. Black. I didn't understand a word he said. He was black as you can be in that tropical zone with that skin melanatin levels. After 3 months being in New York, because I was living in New York at the time, I'm back living in New York now, those genetics changed. He became so much more pale by April, May. He was white. He went from black to white. Now, how does this happen? Of course, obviously through vitamin D levels being produced, melatonin, and there's obviously sunlight. So if you don't get tan, you're going to lose it, right? So I was tan, and now I'm already white. I'm already looking a little bit more white than I did a few weeks ago, and I'm becoming white because of lack of sunlight. Now, of course, that's going to affect your nutrients. That's going to affect your vitamin levels. That's going to affect all of those things. So it's making you a weaker person already. If you're looking at strong genetics, it would probably be in areas that are more tropical. Something that you're going to be outside more often or not requiring too much fat to survive a winter. So if you're in Nigeria, right, you're looking at all these the African runners, right, like the fastest runners in the world. Why are they so genetically gifted? Because they are adding stressors to their life, and they are constantly moving, constantly doing things, which is improving your genetics, right? Now, we can just say just working out, that women would want a fit man rather than a fat man, right? Because A, they're going to have a much better time. B, that better time could be sexually. It could be, obviously if you're in better shape, you're going to go for a lot longer and much better. Right? You can perform much better in the bedroom. More than just that, you're going to be better quality to hang around because you're going to have higher IQ. You're going to be less detoxed. You're going to be less angry because you've already had those stressors throughout your day. If you're exercising, if you're running, whatever it is that you're doing, you're creating those stressors that are improving your character, improving your genetics, improving the quality of you. And that gets passed on from generation to generation. So women go for those better qualities. Again, more than just the better time frame. When your children get bigger, they're going to be better gifted. Because generally, if you're a better man, you're going to be sticking around for your children. Your woman wants you around, etc. And you're going to be raising your child. And because of that duality, the male-female duality, and high levels of alpha capabilities and much better health-wise, much better physically, mentally, spiritually, etc., you're going to produce a much better product for an offspring. I don't want to call it that, a product, but it is a product of your sexual act. So your child's going to be better, and because you're going to be better, and your child's going to be better, and your female's going to be better, and everyone's better, your genetics have already been put into a better spot. Here's the problem that we're seeing as we're devolving in not just this country, but in the world. We're devolving where everyone's trying to sit in front of a screen. We're drinking energy drinks to sit in front of a fucking screen. you're adding stressors into your life to take place of real stressors, right? So those minor stressors would be like, like if you're playing a video game, that's reproducing that stress onto your life, but it's not giving you any rewards. It's mimicking those good stresses like your exercise stress, which an exercise stress is excellent. Sex is excellent. Why do you feel so great during sex? Afterwards, like it just fully, like you just worked out. Those stressors are different. Your good stressors and your bad stressors are going to be different. Your bad stressor would be sitting getting fat while you're hyper stressed on a video game. Oh, fuck, he shot me again. Oh, I died. Oh. When you're going through that, you're going through bad stresses, which is affecting your brain, affecting your cognitive ability. It's affecting how you treat others, your compassion, etc. But if you're adding some good stressors in your life, this would be like, talking to women. Men hate that. A lot of men hate that. But that stressor is helping you, and it in return gives you some great endorphins, gives you some great experiences just talking to women. Yeah, it might be in some boring fucking conversations, but just talking to a woman is adding a stressor to your life. But if you're playing a video game and you're having that bad stressor, you're taking away from the good stress, and you're just fully involved in the bad stress. All right, that wasn't the part of this video that I don't want to talk too much about stressors because I'm going to have a separate video for that. That's going to be pretty fucking long. But let's dive into this, shall we? We have evolved to the point we are at now based on stress. They say that, again, I don't want to be talking about too much stress, but this is evolutionarily the point. Have you ever heard this saying? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create bad circumstances, because you get complacent. Let's say if, the world we are at now is the safest, you got to think to yourself, why is it so safe? It's safe because World War II happened, right? World War II created all these good, strong men. These strong men created good times, right? This is the most simplest way to put it. World War I happens. That created a really tough time throughout the planet. It made people step up to the plate and become better versions of themselves, more of a purpose in their life, more of a stressor in their life, which created stronger men. These stronger men went out into society and created good times. Those good times were the roaring 20s. Those good times created amazing experiences. Then the 30s happened. Those great experiences turned into complacent experiences. Now we're in the Great Depression of the 30s. Good men, hard men were created during stressful times. Those stressful times created the best, strongest possible men that we could be, evolutionarily speaking, with the abilities and what was there, right? Took what you had and made the most of it. Created the best times ever. Post-war, everyone's great experiences. Everyone's having money. Everyone's having fun. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Obviously, there was less taxes back then in the 20s. So people were able to just be more free. And that created great times. Then the Depression came because those great times created weak people. Those weak people didn't want to go to work anymore, right? Those weak people created the Depression in the 30s. Boom! Now we're back into another fucking war. Right? Now, of course, that's American history. But the world wars are world history. Now, you can put those same circumstances into your country. What happened during your country was probably pretty similar, right? Because good times create hard times. And those hard times create good times. So those stressors are needed. 30s happen, everyone's depressed. Now we're in World War II. Starting to create strong men again, right? 50s were great, then the 60s were great, and hippies, and then we started having weaker men. 80s happened, 90s, and then we had that Cold War thing, kind of like never creating that good men again. We haven't had strong men in this country in a long time. We're just getting weaker and weaker. We've been devolving since as a society. We've been more based on entertainment and those look for good times and good entertainments that we are preventing ourselves from being greater, genetically greater, physically greater, stronger, mentally more fit, spiritually more in line, be more of a participant in your family. We're devolving. We're saying, fuck you. It's my time to watch my TV or to play my video game. We're devolving to the point where we think that, okay, obviously the more you know would avoid this. Obviously, the Latin word for virus is called poison. What the Latin word of virus means is poison when translated to English. So let's think about this. Virus, English. A virus, simply not good for you. It's poison. It's poison for your genetics. And we're at a point right now where our levels of comprehension, our levels of consciousness is devolving. It's getting worse and worse every single day. It's getting so bad to the point where we can't help each other. We don't want to help each other. We just want more personal gain. We don't care about trash for our future generations, which means we're lacking compassion more than ever. It's always Republicans versus Democrats, lacking compassion for one another. That compassion is greatly weakening our genetics. Because after generation degrading our genetics, degrading, making us weaker and weaker and weaker, more sick prone, just our immune systems aren't working as properly. We're becoming weaker and weaker. We're dying at a much younger age. We're either on drugs, one way or the other, whether it's from doctors, prescription drugs, whether it's over-the-counter drugs, whether it's your hood rat dealer that fucking is on the block. It doesn't matter. But the point is that drugs are very, very part of our lives now. Our quality of food is much more degraded than ever. We're eating out of boxes. There's no nutrition. And everything tastes like salted cardboard. We're not eating real food, and they're adding all these chemicals to your food. More preservatives for longer shelf life. It's hurting our genetics, and no one cares. No one's talking up about this. Look, evolution's a real thing. We're evolving or devolving at all times. I've said this to you a million times, and the same applies to everything. In life, nothing's neutral. Even pH isn't neutral. Want to know why? Because it's the effectiveness on the subject. If you have a pH of 7, which is neutral, well, what if you have a more of an acidic desired plant? This plant needs more of an acidic value, maybe a 5.8 or a 6. What if this plant needs more of a based pH? A base that's above 7. Maybe this plant desires an 8. There is no pH neutral. Ah, shit. It's darker now. Sorry, guys. Oh, no. I'm sorry, guys. It got even darker, so you're going to have to put up with it a little bit longer. Alright. Our genetics are being weaker every single day. Your dog's genetics, your house cat's genetics are being weaker every day. This is more than just domestication. Of course, we are domesticated as people. Watch one of my favorite videos I've ever made, ever. domestication and control, where I talk about how we've controlled animals for thousands of years. And because of that, we have learned to domesticate them and make them weaker and more compliant to us. That's what we're doing with people today. Just think about your house cat. And fuck it. That's more of a difficult one because they still have a lot of survival capabilities. But if you have a house cat, and this is just one generation, you take one house cat that never went outside ever, but that same house cat's brother was an outdoor cat its whole life. Who's stronger? Well, the outdoor cat had a lot more stressors, right? Understands more of reality than that indoor cat who's complacent and constantly in a comfort zone, right? Constantly maybe even getting fatter. That outdoor cat is stronger, will survive. You take that indoor cat after 10 years of being an indoor cat and bring him outside. That cat's going to die. That cat cannot survive a whole year. The cat doesn't know how to survive, and that's something that's in its genetics. But you are weeding that out of your genetics, passing that down, making it weaker and weaker. So when we domesticated cattle, to become more docile. So we are changing the genetics of cattle to be more docile, not fight back, not run away. Stay in this fence that they can easily knock over, but won't knock over and run away. Because we have trained it and domesticated it and forced it into submission to humans. We've done the same thing with horses. We've done the same thing with even, if you can look at your dogs. Many dogs have been bred to be different, right? In Italy, there are dogs. What's the name of that dog? I can't think of it right now. But there's a dog. Dogs are bred for different things, right? If you have a German Shepherd, that dog has been trained for thousands and thousands of years by humans to be that way, to be that intelligent, to follow your orders, to go out and hunt. You have hunting dogs that have been trained to be hunting dogs. You have protection dogs that will protect your property. Man, I'm trying to remember this dog breed from Italy. That black dog, King Corso. That is a protective dog. It's been trained to be that way. Then there's mountain dogs like Great Bernards that are trained to help travelers travel in the mountains safely. They're trained to help humans travel in the mountains. That's how we train them to be, and it affected their genetics. We devolved and evolved different genetics based on what we want out of them. We've trained pigs to be more docile instead of boars. I mean, boars are going to be much less approachable and much more territorial. But we've trained pigs to be weaker and just, if you hit it upside the head, it's not going to run away. Because we've trained it to be docile. But the point is I'm getting at is that humans have been trained to be domesticated for thousands of years as well. We have been devolving humans for a while. We have, from religion to whatever, to family or oriented things, we have a conscience. We have a conscience through methods of control. Leaders use our conscience against us for thousands of years. They've been training us to become weaker and more dependent for thousands of years. They don't want us dependent or self-sustainable because you're more of a powerful person. You're more of an alpha person when you add that responsibility to your life and those stressors, and you choose to be responsible instead of asking somebody else's permission or asking for help or whatever. Just based on that alone, they are convincing us all that we need them, that we can't take care of ourselves, that we need their protection. And because we are more complacent more than ever, less stressful, more in a comfort zone, food's brought to the supermarket for you instead of going out and learning how to fucking trap a rabbit or kill a deer. Because you don't do that, you're losing those stressors. You're not becoming as strong of a person. You're becoming a weaker person, more of a dependent person. Just think about don't feed the bears. Just think about this Jamaican dude that became a white person basically in 3 or 4 months of being in wintertime in New York. Just in one generation, you can change a genetic. That's how strong evolution is in devolution. It's so fast. In just 100 years, we have domesticated foxes. 100 years. Maybe it's like 150, 200 years. We started domesticating foxes. What? In just 200 years, we've domesticated foxes. 200 years, we can make them more docile. Imagine the thousands of years we've been devolving humans to become dumber, go through their education systems, never thinking for yourself, always being told what to think, and now Google. No one's thinking anymore. No one thinks for themselves, lowering their IQ, being told what to think, what to wear, go to this time, go to your job at this time. These things are playing a huge role, devolving us humans into weaker, docile breeds. My encouragement to you, add stressors to your life. Become the alpha version. Become the best version of you can be. Be the light you want to see in the world. Be the light that you want to see in the world. That's about it for this video. Again, this was a vague video. I could have done it a lot longer. But it's about enough for this video because, again, we can keep going all day about evolution. But I think I hit all the main talking points we had to get to. Now, if you guys were wondering why I have marijuana in my background, these are actually my plants. I took this today. If you guys want to see a whole cannabis video, I think I'm going to make a whole video this week or next week on cannabis. And then, I mean, I've already made a video called Legalize It with cannabis. But I'm going to do a huge video talking about all the pros and cons about cannabis and a lot of other things. And I'm also going to start a grow series. Because if you guys don't already know, there's tons of grow videos on YouTube. And I love flowers, man. So we're going to smoke a little bit right now and get into it, shall we? This is from my grow today. They're just starting their 6th week of flower. And they're beautiful. So what I've been doing is, because I don't have my plants where I live, because it's illegal in New York, every about 3, 4, or 5 days, I have to go to another county to check on my plants. And I've been taking videos of them. So I think I'm going to do this whole grow series with these plants. And like I said, they're about week 6 of flower right now. They have about 2.5, 3 weeks left. And I'd like to show you guys a whole series of the flowering stage. I think that would be cool, right? But anyways, that's enough for this video, guys. If you like this style of content, let me know. I'd rather do this than be in my truck. And today I was able to make a video because my main patient, it was his birthday weekend, so his parents picked him up and stuff, so that was really cool. I didn't have to spend the day with my patient today for the first time in who knows how long. So I had some time to chill and make a video for you guys. So, if you guys want to see a cannabis video, let me know. Stay tuned for more content. It's Opex. I'm out.